This is All India Radio. In the program Spotlight, we now bring you a discussion on Constitution Day. The participants are Dr. Subhash Kashyap, Constitution expert, and Vinay Kumar, journalist.
Our constitution is longest written constitution and probably one of the finest articulation aspirations of the people of India. After independence, Constituent Assembly had adopted the constitution on this day, that is on 26 November 1949. And on 26 January 1950, it came into force. Dr. Kashyap, if we see our constitution, 71 years have gone by, what, in your opinion, are the strengths of our constitution which has gone on for 7 decades? We have seen several ups and downs in our political system and politics of the country, in the public life of the country also. How our constitution has displayed its strength?
Number one, it has survived more than 70 years, while other constitutions framed after the Second World War collapsed, were abrogated, were replaced by other constitutions, or were substituted by military dictatorships or take over by non-democratic dictatorial forces. That is one. Secondly, our constitution has proved to be the greatest national integrational force from Kashmir to Kanyakumari, from the extreme east to the extreme west. Everybody, irrespective of religion, caste or creed, or political party affiliation, accepts the Constitution. Even those who indulge in unconstitutional and anti-national acts seek the protection of the Constitution in times of difficulty. So nobody questions the Constitution. They seek benefits under the Constitution. But as the Prime Minister said, the most important part of the Constitution is that of fundamental duties of citizens. Every citizen has fundamental duties under the Constitution. While we all seek the protection of the Constitution and cry for our rights, we forget our duties. So, quoting Gandhiji, the Prime Minister also said today that there is duties and rights are two parts of the same coin. If you fulfill your duties, you need not bother about the rights. Even the right to live comes from their duty to respect life. One who does not respect the life of others cannot claim any right to live. One thing more, our constitution does not fall in line with any other existing model of the constitution. If the constitution is described as written, unwritten, federal, unitary, presidential, parliamentary, our constitution does not strictly fall in any of these categories. It is a mixture of all these. It takes the middle path, presents a synthesis of different ideals.
You were talking about what Prime Minister said earlier in the day about the importance of duties. He quoted Mahatma Gandhi and said there is a close link between rights and duties. And Prime Minister also said, that if you perform your duties, rights will be automatically safeguarded. He emphasized the need to spread the values of the Constitution. And he said, know your customer, KYC. There should also be a know your Constitution kind of a program. If we take it further, he means that people should know about the values of our Constitution. So how this kind of awareness program can be implemented?
Well, I have been saying for decades, I say so in all humility, that nobody listens. The fundamental duties which the Prime Minister also emphasized, the very first fundamental duty, you know what it is? Very first fundamental duty of every citizen according to the Constitution is to abide by the Constitution and respect its institutions and its ideals and respect the national flag and national anthem. How many people in this country know this? There is tremendous constitutional illiteracy in the country. Now, beyond saying that we should know the Constitution, after all, how do the people come to know? I have been submitting that study of the Constitution or the values of the Constitution and duties under the Constitution, that should be made compulsory part of the school, college, professional institutions, educational curriculum. Without doing that, if we simply say, know your constitution, how are the people to know? Even amongst the educated, they are professionals, engineers, business graduates, lawyers, others, except in the field of law and political science. Constitution is not taught from primary to university stage. So it should be the government, if it is serious about fundamental duties, and as I said, the first fundamental duty is to know your constitution, then it should be made a compulsory subject from primary level to university level and for all professional colleges.
Dr. Kashyap, even our preamble to the Constitution is so rich, so expressive and so forceful. Our Constitution is not merely a legal document. It is an important instrument which also protects the freedom in all sections of the society and provides every citizen the right of equality, which talk about so much these days.
The preamble begins with the words, "We the people of India hereby resolve," etc., etc., and in the end says, "Assuring the dignity of the individual and unity and integrity of the nation, hereby adopt, enact and give to ourselves this constitution." So the first point emphasized is by the constitution makers is that they are doing so in the name of the people of India. We the people of India give to ourselves this constitution. So the real sovereign powers vest in the people. We believe in democracy, and democracy means that power belongs to the people. Can we say that the people today feel empowered after the constitution came into force? The people become important only at the time of election. Otherwise, no powers belong to the people.
I just refer back to what Prime Minister said in his address to the presiding officers at Kevadia today. He referred to the emergency, saying that in 1970s there was an attack on the dignity of separation of powers. I would like to ask you, there is very clear distinction of separation of powers, our scheme of governance, how our country is governed. So probably taking hint or indication a step further, you think there have been instances where the polity or whether we have failed the constitution, we have not been able to live up to the ideals and principles which our constitution wanted us live up to those levels. Probably was that a reference to the 70s?
Yes and no. The constitution, one way of defining the constitution is or has been that constitution establishes the organs of the government, the legislature, the executive and judiciary, and it defines and delimits the powers of each organ. It defines and delimits the jurisdiction limits of each organ. As I see the Prime Minister's reference to the rights and duties of the three organs and relationships between them, which was the main subject at the presiding officers conference, then I see that the reference is to each organ of the state, executive, judiciary and legislature, sticking to its own jurisdictional limits, performing its responsibilities and its duties without crossing the Lakshmana Rekha, without crossing its own jurisdiction limits. While we have seen several instances where the jurisdictional limits have been crossed, I hate to mention on the Constitution Day the way the judiciary, in the name of the creative jurisprudence, have very often crossed limits and have assumed to itself powers which belong only to Parliament.
Lok Sabha Speaker Mr. Om Birla has today written an article in a leading newspaper. He has said that our constitution, along with the fundamental rights, also imposes a number of fundamental duties on its citizens. And he talked about basic norms of democratic conduct and behavior, as rights and duties go hand in hand. And we have our rights and they will always remain with us. But if we as citizens are able to adhere to our duties, and act accordingly, this century will certainly be the century of India. Dr. Kashyap, if you as an expert, if we look back at our constitution, how do you think we can attract, young minds, young thinkers?
The very first fundamental duty of every citizen is to know the Constitution, to abide by it. Now, how do you abide by the Constitution? Even in a situation where the educated also do not know the Constitution. So it is important to know the Constitution for understanding what are the ideals and values of the Constitution, what are the characteristics of the Constitution, what are the duties of citizens under the Constitution. Without including it in the educational curriculum, there is no other way to teach even the educated the fundamental duties or information about the Constitution.
Till 5 years ago, this day, 26th November, was observed as National Law Day because Supreme Court Bar Association in 1979 made a resolution to this effect. But the Modi government decided 5 years ago in 2015 that, 26th November should be observed as Constitution Day.
Some concrete steps should be taken. Right from 1949, it was being celebrated as the Law Day or the Constitution Day. The institutions, voluntary organization connected with the Constitution were celebrating it as the Constitution Day, while bar associations and others under Supreme Court decision were celebrating it as Law Day, because Constitution is the fundamental law of the land. But as you rightly said, in 2015, the government of India, even though belatedly decided that should be celebrated as a national festival all over the country as the Constitution Day. So I think that was a right step. But my submission is that it should not only be a part of celebrations, it should tell us to do something concrete about spreading awareness of the Constitution. Merely holding seminars, meetings, or lectures will not help unless it is made a compulsory part of the school, college. And the Prime Minister also referred to the duties expected of schools and colleges in this regard. But it should be laid down as a compulsory part of the school, college, and professional institution curriculum.
Dr. Kashyap, Prime Minister also very briefly referred to the resilience of our Constitution. And if you look at the ground realities, you see the American presidential election where bitter tussle is on between the incumbent and Joe Biden, who Democratic Party candidate who has won the election. The principle of peaceful transfer of power in the world's oldest democracy, and in India we have world's largest democracy. We have seen very peaceful transition and transfer of power, elections after elections.
Earliest signs of democracy were to be seen in ancient India, even much before the Greek city-states to which democracy is attributed by Western scholars. We had in our country democratic republics, a large number of them. Sri Aurobindo refers to several democratic autonomies all over the country, united by a single thread of unity of the nation. So I do not believe that America is the oldest democracy. If you have to look to the most ancient and oldest democratic institutions, you have to go back to Indian history. Even Rig Veda, which is said to be the earliest document available, refers to Sabha and Sammiti. And Atharvaveda refers to Sabha and Sammiti. But apart from this, the point you are raising is very relevant in the sense that it is not only that our elections have been almost entirely fair and accepted as such, but there has been, as you rightly said, peaceful transfer of power, which all democracies in the world, even the modern democracies, cannot claim. And most recently, we saw the tussle going on in the United States. You are very right in saying that we had peaceful transfer of power every time.
Thank you, Dr. Kashyap, for enlightening us on all these aspects of our Constitution.
You were listening to a discussion on Constitution Day. The participants were Dr. Subhash Kashyap, Constitution expert, and Vinay Kumar, journalist. This program was produced and presented by the News Services Division of All India Radio. You can listen to it on our mobile app, News on AIR. This program is also available on our website, newsonair.com. You may email your opinion about this program at airnsdtalks@gmail.com.